What's up, guys? We are reviewing the new Ibis Ripley, the 5th generation. I can't hardly believe it. If you have been to my channel before, you know how much I absolutely loved the 4th generation Ripley. It was unbelievable. They made a big change going from the 3rd to the 4th generation. I think they've made an even bigger change now coming into this 5th generation. It is a bona fide trail bike now, where the previous 4th generation kind of blurred the lines between a cross-country bike and a trail bike. It was really lightweight and nimble and zippy feeling. This feels more substantial, more like a trail bike. I'm really excited to share my thoughts and my riding experience over the last 2 weeks on this new Ripley with you guys today. My name's Jason. Welcome to MTB Yum Yum. I'm 5'8" on a size medium. I almost always ride a medium and it fits me really well. No different on this Ripley. It just felt great. Has a really steep seat tube angle. So almost 77-degree seat tube angle, and then a 64.9, almost 65-degree head tube angle. About a 460 millimeter reach, but it doesn't feel like that much reach because the seat tube angle is so steep and the head tube angle is a little slacker, so the 460 reach doesn't feel that much. In fact, it feels with this little 35 millimeter stem, it feels like it's a little tidier cockpit than the previous 4th generation, maybe. And that was a 450 millimeter reach. So it got about 1.5 degrees slacker in the head tube angle than the previous model. And it actually kind of reminds me of the geometry from the old Ripmo. The Ripmo had very similar geometry than this. One of the huge things I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about climbing, descending, who I think this bike is for. I took this bike to my local bike park and rode lift service, hitting big jumps and really big features on a Ripley, which I wouldn't have done that on the previous Ripley, but this one I felt pretty comfortable. And so we're going to talk about a few ideas. One of the things I'm going to mention is the wheelbase on this. The wheelbase on this size medium is 12'11", where the previous wheelbase on the previous Ripley was like 1170 something. So it really got a lot longer. It got an extra 10 millimeters of travel in the rear, so it's 130 millimeters travel in the rear now instead of 120. And it uses the Fox Float shock. Every bike I've demoed with that new shock. So the Pivot Shadow Cat, the new Specialized Epic Evo, and a few others. The new Tallboy also had that float shock. Every bike I've ridden with it, it feels so good. I really like that rear shock. This bike now has 130 millimeters of travel in the rear. It still has a 140 millimeter fork with a Fox 34 on it. I say still, the reality is the previous Ripley was a 120, 130, but a lot of people, including myself, ended up riding it with a 140 millimeter fork. So that's what this has, is a 140 millimeter fork. So this is a little bit more of a trail bike. Come on this ride with me today and kind of see what I have to say about the bike. I picked this bike up from Salt Cycles in Sandy, Utah. They are one of the largest Ibis dealers. They have this Ripley and the new Ripmo in stock right now. You can call Chris. I'll link the number down here below. He probably has leftover 4th generation Ripleys as well. And so give them a call. They are a huge support to my channel. I couldn't have created this video without them. And I'm so grateful to have been on this Ripley for the last couple weeks to bring this video and publish this video for you today. So come on this ride with me and then we'll circle around here at the end and kind of go over some final thoughts. I'm out here climbing today. I've had this bike at the bike park up at Deer Valley and on my local trails here, so it's seen lots of different terrain. This is the most capable Ripley ever. And it still climbs like incredibly well, just hooks up, finds traction, but boy, can you feel the beefiness of this bike underneath you. It feels much less like the old Ripley, the 4th generation Ripley, and much more like a trail bike, almost like the Ripmo or a Yeti SB140. Another bike that comes to mind in this category is the Santa Cruz Tallboy. So the Ripley's gained some weight. Along with it comes some, higher speed and more trail capability. Still climbs good, but it misses that kind of zippy, quick handling climbing feeling. Let's get to the downhill up here and see how she goes. Okay, first run down Jacob's Ladder on the new Ripley. Man, it just feels so composed. That rear end feels just damp. Wow. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That just feels more plush, more quiet, just more composed than the previous Ripley. That's fun. That's amazing. Still pretty poppy too. I mean, look, it's not the same bike as the old Ripley, but it's more capable. It's like if the old Ripley and the Ripmo had a baby, it produced this new 5th generation Ripley. It's actually really a lot of fun. Man, that rear end is so good. What the heck did Ibis do with this thing? Wow. That's amazing. Like, this is gonna sound weird, but this is gonna sound maybe a little crazy, but the rear end feels like really plush and deep, kind of like the tall boy. And I realized, I'm going off the trail. I realize I'm, you know, the Ripley now has a little bit more travel than the tall boy. But the tall boy's always been the bike in this category that felt more plush, a little deeper, a little more composed than the Pivot Trail 429 or the Ripley or other bikes in this category. Wow. Yes. It still has that poppy, lively feeling though. Wow. Oh boy, Kevin, hang on. Wow. And just to describe the trail we were just on, just high speed, really lots of 8-inch to like 1.5 foot drops and stuff. Jeez. Wow. Dude, this bike is just so capable. It feels deep.
Yeah, you were right there, man. That's impressive.
Kevin's on his Yeti SB140. This bike can now hang with bikes like the SB140, the old Ripmo, the High Tower. I mean, just, you know, it's more stepping out of that 120 category. Obviously, it's 130 in the rear now, but the tall boy, the Santa Cruz tall boy, always did that. The Ripley's saying, hey, I want a piece of the action now. Interesting. How's fun? You probably noticed from my riding that the general theme of this bike is it's now a big boy bike. It's a trail bike, you know? It's more like the Santa Cruz tall boy. It can start to do things and keep up with bikes like the Yeti SB140 or this guy's big brother, the Ripmo, or the Santa Cruz High Tower. It's not in that category, but it just kind of keeps up a little better. Whereas the previous Ripley kind of felt more nimble, a little bit more sporty underneath you, certainly more lightweight. It also climbed a little better than this one. Climbing is still very good on this one, but it's no longer that really special bike. The previous Ripley was so special because it felt kind of like a cross-country bike with some chops, you know? And that's kind of how a lot of these cross-country bikes today are kind of going. They're becoming a little slacker in the head tube angle, and they just are more capable cross-country bikes. Well, now the Ripley has moved into the category of actual trail bike. You can feel it too. The bike feels a little heavier. It is heavier. You know, this is over 29 pounds with the GX build. It's like a $7,600 build, but I want to just talk real quickly about this new frame. First of all, it is stunning. The lines on this are just so good. This is such a good looking mountain bike. It's both 29 and 27.5 wheel size compatible in the rear, so you can run it as a 29er, how I have it here, and that's how I think they all ship. Or you could switch the link here, move it forward, and throw a 27.5 wheel size in the back to run mixed wheel or mullet. Each size has a frame, like size specific frame and chainstay length and bottom bracket height. So small, medium, extra medium, oddly enough, large, and then extra large. So I'm on a medium at 5'8", and it fits great. But now they offer the extra medium, then large, and then extra large, right? What else can I tell you about? They all have in-frame, down tube in-frame storage. It's very easy to use, just pops right off like that with my water bottle still on there. It comes with some little bags that are inside the down tube there, but it just pops back on, lickety split. This is probably the easiest. This and the Specialized are probably the easiest like swap box or down tube storage. I forget exactly what they call theirs, but that in-frame storage is very easy to use compared to like Santa Cruz is a little janky in comparison. Trek, I remember, was a little difficult to use too. In any case, yeah, that's pretty much, I think, the update on the bike. It's heavier for sure. Still climbs pretty good, but doesn't have that zippy feeling that the previous Ripley had. Like I said, that previous 4th generation Ripley was really a special bike. So, descending. Well, the 5th generation of the Ibis Ripley is more capable than ever. It has a crazy, like, deep feeling. Like, honestly, it feels more plush. And it's been a while since I've ridden the Ripmo, but man, it just feels deep and plush, but still sporty and lively. I mean, this is a really neat change that they've made to the Ripley. And I'll be honest, at first thought, when I first took this bike for its first ride, I was like, oh no, the Ibis Ripley is a big, heavy trail bike now. And look, it is, but you don't really feel the extra weight when you're riding it. Like climbing and stuff, it still climbs really well. These tight blue trails are still really fun. I mean, I've been riding this bike for over 2 weeks now, and I'm growing to really like it. If you're a guy who can only own one bike at a time, I'm trying to think of what I'd buy instead of this, and nothing comes to mind. It's really good. Jeez, so fun. Maybe I put a Fox 36 on this, and this is my new big bike. It's good.
Yeah,
I don't feel like it gives up too much. I don't feel like it gives up too much over the short travel bikes on these blue trails either. It's good. How are you going? Pretty hard?
I'm not going slow. I'm probably 90.
Yeah, 90%. Yeah.
I'm not sprinting out of corners. Doing mostly coasting.
Yeah. It felt good. Let's hit the jumps. That's the other thing. I feel more confident for sure hitting jumps on this bike than the old Ripley. Up at Deer Valley, for example, with my son, I mean, not to say this is a bike park bike, but it's a bike that you'd be much happier to take to the bike park than the old Ripley, that's for sure. More so than maybe the Trail 429 even, you know. Jeez, it just corners so well. Man, fun. This bike is certainly much more capable than the previous 4th generation Ripley. It feels much more deep in the rear. Like, it feels like it has more travel I mean, maybe it's because it's in my mind that it's a Ripley, but it just doesn't feel like that sporty little Ripley anymore. It still feels like a ton of support in the shock. It's not bogging out or anything like a real long travel bike. Has a ton of support, but it feels deep and just absorbs every single bump. I don't remember the previous Ripley ever feeling this confidence inspiring on the descent. I think part of it is that float shock. I think that Ibis updated and changed their suspension system. It's still a DW Leak suspension system, but they changed up the kinematics. And I don't know all the engineering nerdy stuff about that, but I can tell you after 2 weeks of riding it from green trails to double black trails at the bike park, this is not only a very capable bike, it just feels like butter in the back. It is just so smooth. It's unbelievable. Probably smoother than even like the Revel Rascal, which is a similar 130 mil travel bike. It's very impressive. So let's move on to one more thing actually about descending is I was concerned when I saw the numbers, because the numbers look almost like a Ripmo, the previous generation Ripmo. I was concerned the bike's gonna feel too long and too slow in really tight spots. It wasn't. It still felt pretty zippy, pretty sporty, but not quite like the previous Ripley. So if you currently own a Ripley and you're thinking, man, I wonder if this is the bike for me, these are some of the thoughts or ideas you might consider. Did you ever wonder if you should have got the Ripmo? Because if the previous Ripley and the previous Ripmo had a baby, this is it. I mean, this is such a happy medium between the previous Ripley and the previous Ripmo, and it leans more toward the Ripmo in my experience if you rode the previous Ripmo with a Fox 36 and like the old DPS or DPX2 shock, not the X2 shock. In any case, who I think this is for, the previous Ripley was neat because people who really want that light, zippy, fast bike but didn't want to commit to an actual cross-country bike could kind of like have their cake and eat it too, right? It was light enough, mine weighed 25 pounds, my Ripley. And so that was a neat thing about that bike. This new model, I think, is gonna be a better bike for more people. There's gonna be a larger category of mountain bikers who identify or are excited about this bike, I think, especially people who only own one bike at a time and don't want to commit to an actual long travel, Yeti SB140 lunch ride, which is my personal bike. The Ripmo, the Hightower, the Stump Jumper Evo that they used to have. I know the new Stump Jumper just came out, but if you don't want to commit to that longer travel bike, and for sure those are going to be in that 30 plus pound range, this is a pretty neat option. I would pick this over the current Tallboy. It feels like it climbs maybe a little better than the Tallboy, but it just feels so supportive. I mean, it feels very good. This is a very fun bike to ride. A lot of fun. I also think with the Ripley moving up in travel, I gotta think that Ibis at some point is gonna update the Ibis XE, their cross-country bike, and bring that up a little bit more. Make it a slightly more, fill that role of the old Ripley a little bit more, I think. Anyway, the bike's incredible looking. I've got this kind of grayish blue looking one. I guess now that I'm looking at it, looks like it has lots of different colors in it, but yeah, kind of a bluish, a matte finish kind of bluish color. And then it also comes in like an emerald green type looking color. Overall, I'm really excited about the bike. I'm a little sad in my heart about the old Ripley going away because that was such a special bike. It's probably a couple pounds lighter than this bike, but it has the in-frame storage that I know everybody likes, and it has size-specific chain stays, and it's just a little bit burlier bike. It's now 130 in the rear instead of 120, so it's, you're getting more bike. I think you're getting a better engineered bike overall. It's just that longer travel and heavier weight, But please comment down below if you think Ibis ruined the Ripley or if you think they finally made the Ripley what it should have always been. If you have any questions, put it down there too. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this new Ripley, see what you think about it. I'll have more content coming out soon about this bike. I'll post some footage of me at the bike park with my kids and a few other things. But man, what a neat new bike from Ibis, and man, they completely changed the Ripley. It's incredible. So thanks for watching, guys. Thank you to Salt Cycles. They have these in stock. If you're wondering, if you've been riding the Ripley and you don't like the direction that this new Ripley has gone, and you're wondering, well, what's out there then that would be a better fit? What would be a good replacement for the previous Ripley if you want to stick with that same weight and that same idea? Because this has certainly moved on to the trail category. The two bikes that kind of come to mind that replace the old vibe and sportiness and the feeling and the lightweight of the previous 4th generation Ripley, the two bikes that come to mind would be the Pivot Mach 4 SL. That really embodies a lot of what the previous Ripley kind of had to it. And then the new Cannondale Scalpel. Both those have similar geometry numbers, 115 and 120 in the rear travel, 120 forks. They kind of feel like that zippy, sporty, just want to haul butt uphill type of vibe, but still descend really well, which is what that old Ripley did so well. If you want something that's more like that old Ripley, I would look at the Cannondale Scalpel, which I have at my house right now, and there's a video coming on out on that soon. Or the Mach 4 SL, which I can link that video right here, that I've owned and filmed that bike before as well. And those two are good replacements for the Ripley if you want to keep with that. If you are more excited about the way the Ripley is moving this heavier weight, more capable bike, kind of feels that higher speed, chunkier terrain, you're going to love this bike. This is a better engineered bike too, I think. Anyway, I've talked too much about it. This video is getting probably way too long. Thank you for watching. I'm excited to see your comments down below. I'll respond to any questions that you have down there too, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.